Hi, welcome class. Today we are starting the lessons for homework 21. So slope-intercept form. So when we talk about forms, we're talking about different ways you can write things. So remember we talked about like a line might be y equals 2. That's a horizontal line. Could be x equals 4. It could be 2x minus 3y equals 7. And those are different formats of lines, but one of the formats of lines looks like this: y equals 1/2 x minus 2. And this type of line where you have the y equals in the front is called slope-intercept form. And it's called that because these numbers, the 1/2 and the -2, end up telling us something important. The 1/2 ends up being the slope. So this means the slope is 1/2. And the -2, because of that negative in front, ends up telling you the y-intercept is at 0, -2. When the line is in this format, which is standard format, it might be nice to find intercepts, say, for example, but none of those numbers, the 2, the 3, and the 7, they don't mean something in particular in that case. So that's why this format is good. If you recall back on exam 2, there was a question that said, take something like this and solve for y. So it was a question about solving for y. And so we did that by subtracting 2x from both sides, dividing by -3. Two negatives make a positive. Positive and negative make a negative. And so I can take this starred equation and rewrite it in slope-intercept form. So the slope is 2/3 and the y-intercept 0, -7/3. So that's why that question was on exam 2. Another note to make, when it's in slope-intercept form, so this one right here, the best way to use a table is to plug in values for x, because when I plug in values for x, I just do the math and I get a value for y. I don't have to solve equations at all. And remember, if that number, that slope is 1/2, we like to plug in numbers like 2 and 4 and 0, things that when I'm going to multiply by 1/2 still give me whole numbers. So here are some example problems you could see on your homework. Write the equation of the line with slope 3 and y-intercept 0, -7. So y equals 3. I put that in for the slope. And then -7. Questions about that? I hope not. This one, what if I give you an equation and I ask you the slope and the y-intercept? In this case, the slope is this number right here. So my answer is going to be m equals -3/4. And this is going to tell me my y-intercept, which is 0, 12. Now, I'm always going to ask you, so if we end up taking a paper final, if we had the paper exam, I'm always going to ask you to write that as a point when you're doing my labs. Remember, you always have to look at the blue part of the question to see what format it wants your answer in, so you make sure you format it correctly. If what you're given is not in standard form, not slope-intercept form, then you're gonna have to solve for y. So 2x plus 5y equals 10. I'm gonna subtract 2x from both sides, and I get 5y equals -2x plus 10. You'll notice I snuck the 2x in front because I want it to have that mx plus b format. Then I'm going to divide by 5. Now when you're dividing by 5, you're doing each part separately. So this is -2/5, but 10 divided by 5 is actually the whole number 2. So I'm going to do the 2/5, and then I'm going to do the 10/5 when I break it up. So in this case, Our slope is -2/5. Remember, that means every time I move, I go down 2 steps and right 5 steps. And my y-intercept is going to be 0, 2. Now that we have this, we can use the slope-intercept form to graph. So I'm going to review quickly what are our ways of graphing. So our ways of graphing so far is a table. So we make a table and then we plot the points and connect the dots. We use the intercepts. That's one of the things that we've done. Find the x-intercept, find the y-intercept, connect them. But in this case, we're going to use the fact that this equation is in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to start by looking at this. So the y-intercept is down here at 0, -3. So I'm going to start with that. And then I'm going to use the fact that the slope is 1/2, which is going to tell me go up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. So I'm going to go up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. And remember, that happens to be the same as going down 1, left 2. Down and left, down and left, down and left, down and left. And now I have lots of points to try and draw my line. So I didn't use a table. The only specific point I used was the y-intercept, but then I used my slope to kind of walk from point to point. This is a good method if the line is in slope-intercept form, or if you feel like you can put the line in. And that's it for the first half of homework 21. This should be the front of the first worksheet and about halfway down the back. Let me know if you have questions.